All right. Good evening, everybody. Wow, that is a very, very late start tonight. Wow. Let's just get rid of the audio. We've got quality options, which makes me happy. And for some reason, I called it Night Team 4, which does not make any sense at all. So let me just update that real quick. There we go. Okay, so I do, I am quite sorry for the delay because I had the time. So I wanted to start at 7. And I'll be honest with you, I fell asleep and I really needed the sleep. So because my life is entirely about measuring everything now, I have been tracking sleep, and the average is 5 hours. And that is not due to an outlier. That is generally a reflection of how much I've been getting. And worse off, even if that is a very small amount, I have been kind of woken up by the upstairs neighbors quite a bit, which I'm not crazy about. So didn't mind the sleeping thing, but I had to catch up, and then a acquaintance, friend. I'm never quite sure when you're allowed to use the F word with people, but went online. And I'll admit, like, while I was doing that, I definitely watched them because I don't always get a chance to watch. And I definitely spent more time on that than I wanted to. So I apologize. It's not actually, I never consciously said I'm going to delay the stream because I would have tweeted if I did. But I noticed just every minute or so that went by, I got sidetracked, basically. Anyways, I'm going to shut up and you can enjoy the cutscene.
You remember our venerable house? Opulent and imperial, gazing proudly from its stoic perch above the moor. I lived all my years in that ancient, rumor-shadowed manor, fattened by decadence and luxury. And yet I began to tire of conventional extravagance. Singular, unsettling tales suggested the mansion itself was a gateway to some fabulous and unnameable power. With relic and ritual, I bent every effort towards the excavation and recovery of those long-buried secrets, exhausting what remained of our family fortune on swarthy workmen and sturdy shovels. At last, in the salt-soaked crags beneath the lowest foundations, we unearthed that damnable portal antediluvian evil. Our every step unsettled the ancient earth, but we were in a realm of death and madness. In the end, I alone fled laughing and wailing through those blackened arcades of antiquity, until consciousness failed me. You remember our venerable house, opulent and imperial. It is a festering abomination. I beg you, return home, claim your birthright, and deliver our family from the ravenous, clutching shadows of the darkest dungeon.
Darkest Dungeon is about making the most of a bad situation. Quests will fail or must be abandoned. Heroes will die, and when they die, they stay dead. Progress autosaves constantly, so actions are permanent. The game expects a lot out of you. How far will you push your adventures? How much are you willing to sacrifice in your quest to restore the hamlet? What will you sacrifice to save the life of your favorite hero? Thankfully, there are always fresh souls arriving on the stagecoach, seeking both adventure and fame in the shadow of the Darkest Dungeon. So, it's been a while. For those of you, so I'm gonna get some of my like just chatty and life stuff out of the way at the start. First of all, I really don't know. It's always a roll of the dice when I start late. Sometimes
you will know the tragic extent of my failings.
Sometimes that seems to produce like a lot of people watching, and sometimes it's a bit of a ghost town. I think on average, a too late of a start will generally mean a lower viewership, which, again, I will be very clear, numbers aren't everything. Twitch, most social media companies really put a lot of effort into making you have a sense of worth that comes specifically from the number of people who are watching you at any one time. It'll determine your placement in terms of the, in terms of the list of streams. It's going to, determine whether or not you get a certain status, like affiliate or partner. I don't think affiliate's all that hard to get, I don't think, but people seem to be very happy to get it. I have been to Twitch events where effectively everyone is sort of trying to find out how many concurrents you have and see whether or not it's going to go through. I've personally experienced it, like people who I really tried to be very supportive of and would talk to, suddenly vanishing once they hit a certain level, and they would find that sort of strengthening the ties with someone sort of the next level up would sort of enhance it. And it worked. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, that is a very effective way of moving ahead. And part of it is just a question in terms of what you do. So, to me, gaming is something of a social experience, even though I do primarily play single-player games. I like talking about them, whether it's ideas that come outside of the game or the, or just kind of sharing something that I think is sort of interesting. If Twitch didn't exist, I would definitely be putting stuff on a laptop, although my current laptop is not able to move, let's say. It's also very old. But, I have and likely will continue to, once I have the ability to, like, take stuff on the road and show people, because I find it fun. I find it kind of interesting. So if that's what I like about it, the concurrent view thing doesn't become very, it shouldn't be a major source of stress or focus, because, the sharing part is sort of key. Also, to me, it's why, I mentioned those other examples, because to me, I don't think anybody really likes feeling like a stepping stone on someone's path. But more importantly to me, like, obviously the point of a network is to connect with people over something that's a mutual interest. And so the idea of the severing of that connection doesn't make as much sense to me. But it's obviously just a different sort of frame of mind or different approach. Obviously, I would not be considered a model of success that anyone would want to follow. So all that I'm really expressing here is sort of what I do in terms of, what keeps me streaming on a somewhat regular basis, even though the hours have sort of been stretched lately. But I didn't mean to go onto that diversion. All that was really supposed to do was sort of set up an explanation in terms of saying that I can obviously use the sleep, and I'm still behind on some of the stuff that I wanted to do before I started broadcasting. So this is just kind of a long way of saying that I may not do the full run tonight, and I don't mean to make it sort of sound like, because, like, the thing is, if you're watching it, it doesn't matter if there's like 10 other people watching it. There's somebody, hey Midori Misha, good to see you. It doesn't matter if there aren't like 10 or 100 people watching alongside you. You're enjoying it, and you don't want it to stop until you're good and ready to stop watching. But with that in mind, I am sort of facing constraints on my time and my energy, and I actually have quite a bit to go through in the evening. So I just wanted to be as transparent as I could at the front. I screwed up as far as timing. Normally, I try and just shift the time out, particularly on weekends, because, I can have a later bedtime. But my incentives may be such that I may go for a shorter run this time around. But suffice to say, we are now well and truly out of the sort of the disruption to the schedule. Wednesday was a short stream because of the local game dev meetup. Today, It seems like the number's quite a bit up. There's quite a few more of us. Yeah, Ellen, Nereus. So as far as I can tell, there's a few so I don't actually, so I turned off the concurrent view. So once upon a time I turned off the concurrent viewer number for myself because I didn't actually find it very helpful information. And then now I usually don't have a browser open while I stream because I noticed for a couple of games, like Chrome seems to take up a very large number of resources, and I'm never quite sure why it does. But on the margin, because I am running on a bit of an older computer, I like for some of the more intensive games, so something like a Battlefield or that, which admittedly I don't stream very often. I do tend to find that it makes the difference in terms of stream quality. But more importantly, too, like that's not necessarily information that's always that helpful for me. But insofar as I've kind of checked, there's a few things that I notice. If you've got multiple streams open, I believe the stream in which you have either chatted last or is sort of the active window will count the concurrent viewership. I also believe if you have a stream muted, it will not count it as a concurrent viewer. And then I also suspect that some of the names inside of chat will be bots, but on the other hand, not everybody who's watching necessarily is watching with a Twitch account. So there's kind of forces going one way or the other. I always just kind of consider it relative to some of my other stuff. So I always kind of consider it to be a noisy signal. So like if I'm playing, let's say I'm playing Darkest Dungeon, and I really enjoy playing Darkest Dungeon on my own. I'm going to get into the game pretty quickly, but this is a mildly interesting topic, I think. I really like Darkest Dungeon. If I were to go from, let's say, I mean, let's just use nice round numbers. So like 100 viewers down to 25 over multiple streams for Darkest Dungeon. There's a pretty big signal there. And it's not even necessarily that people don't necessarily like Darkest Dungeon, because you're not guaranteed anything. That number can go to 0 on a given day, right? But what it does seem to suggest is that people are either getting what they want from Darkest Dungeon somewhere else, or there's something that appeals to even more people elsewhere. And so that would sort of raise the question, okay, well, is this something that, I benefit from playing myself on my own time, or would it be better for me to stream? So a great example of this would be, I've been playing quite a bit of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. I've got the Heroes of the Inner Storm DLC. I don't have Legend of the Kestrel Lancers yet. I've been really, really enjoying that game, and actually I wound up recording 2 videos for a friend of mine. So, I'm loving the Stellaris nerdery coming in. That's coming back Monday, by the way. But yeah, I sort of think about the qualities of MechWarrior 5 that make me really enjoy it, and what I could, like whether or not that would be a good streaming game. And maybe, I don't know, if people want to see MechWarrior 5, like let me know. I'll definitely consider it. But one of the considerations I would have for something like that is, because it's an action game, there's going to be interruptions partway through that sort of break the flow of thought. In terms of things to talk about, I can be a bit of a nerd. Like, if you like Warhammer 40k and like that there's a massive like rabbit hole of like either novels or other written material to go through. Same for BattleTech. I'd actually argue that in some ways BattleTech can be a little bit more interesting in some ways, but I realize that that's going to get people mad, because like if you really like something, you're never going to like to hear it compared unfavorably. Suffice to say, I also think Warhammer 40k is kind of neat, and that can also be something that provides quite a bit of satisfaction. Suffice to say, the idea of nerding out over BattleTech lore actually sounds very appealing to me, but probably wouldn't work in the case of MechWarrior 5, because so much of it is real-time mech combat. And I do have things that I can say, like obviously I was able to do Wolfenstein and Doom, but I'm not entirely sure the train of thought would quite be sustained the same way that playing, the BattleTech campaign again would. Anyways, that was definitely a very long and winding road to unknown territory. But one way or the other, again, I never want to... I know I talk about viewership more than the statement "I don't care as much about it" would really imply, right? Like, revealed preferences are a wonderful thing. It's kind of like if somebody's bullying you and you say, "I don't care," through, like, tear-stained cheeks. There's a credibility problem with that, right? But on the other hand, like, I mean, really all I just wanted to do was give myself an out for not streaming until like 2 o'clock in the morning. Warhammer's scary lore is deeper than real world history. Oh yeah, and of course Warhammer 3. Oh man, actually I suspect there's some interest in me doing Warhammer 3, isn't there? I did the prologue campaign. I wound up doing a lot of auto battles at the end, but I'd actually really like to go back to Troy, because I have more that I can say about Troy than Warhammer. But yeah, anyways, let's play some Darkest Dungeon, shall we? Especially because I need to remember where we're at. So I think I did myself a favor, and I didn't I like put in the R&R for my people. So I would like to level up my flagellants. In fact, I believe I said the crew that I was going to send to deal with the Countess needed to have a flagellant. So we're quite a ways off, I suspect, dealing with her. So what I'm going to do instead, I think we'll use the... So I think my first Darkest Dungeon run back from... my first Darkest Dungeon run from a long break probably shouldn't be a boss. But maybe what I can do is I can try and push some people up to 4s and 5s in prep for the Drowned crew and such. So we can take Olaf. Definitely looking like a usual suspects kind of crew. Okay, I think we can make this work. You've never actually watched a Total War game. You used to love watching long plays of Shogun and Total War Warhammer 2. So it took me a very, very long time to get into that series. I wanted to get into it, but the challenge that I had was, for the longest time, it would feel like I was taking plastic army men and just sort of smashing them together for like really no reason and no discernible outcome. And like people would sort of like try and say, it's like, yeah, but like the idea is, it's like any strategy game, you got the rock paper scissors game, and I'm like, yeah, but like I'm just not getting enough information to know what's going on. And I'll be honest with you, I still don't quite think the strategy layer in like the cities and stuff like that quite works for me. I like the idea of things that will determine the circumstances of the battle that you go into. I do think that's kind of interesting. I'm not entirely sure Total War quite nails it. But it was Rome 2. So I tried a few of them. Rome 2, and I think that's probably because of my interest in the subject matter, finally kind of clicked. And I started doing some battles where, the AI would kind of give me even odds, and I just wound up like really crushing people and starting to think a little bit more tactically and suddenly being able to like pick apart the different types of units. So then I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then there's like stuff like Empire Divided, so the Crisis of the Third Century is just an interesting period of time. So I think there's something neat about that. So that finally gave me a hook. I tried Attila. I couldn't quite get... I think I was spoiled by all the improvements that Rome 2 had gotten. So Attila sort of felt like a step back for me, but I very much enjoyed Troy. I actually still quite like Troy. I have all the DLC for that. I like playing Diomedes. Warhammer can be very intimidating because not only like so in like the historical Total War games, everybody's human beings, right? So there is obviously tremendous variation in factions that use elephants in war, or have a culture where horseback archery is the sort. So I'm thinking like the Parthians, like the idea of a parting shot actually comes from the Parthians. That sort of, there's obviously tremendous variation in unit types that you can get out of history, but fundamentally, right, there's just a certain amount of real world logic you can apply to the problems. These people on horseback with arrows are probably not going to be very good if you can catch them and beat the crap out of them. But if you go after them heavily armored, you're probably not going to be able to catch them. And if you go after them with light armor, they're probably going to just, pick you apart because they have movement and arrows and such. Whereas, if you have a legion, right, a bunch of sturdy, armored guys with like shields up in a tough formation, well, that's going to kind of imply this solid like front line, or like spears. Like, I think most people can probably gather without having to be told the history that you probably want to use spear units against things like cavalry in that. Again, there's just a certain amount of real world logic that you can apply. But then you move into a world of Warhammer, and you've got like rat people and dwarves and orcs and elves and chaos, and then you've got the variation within those different factions. And again, there's certain amounts of logic, like whether or not you're big into fantasy, you'd kind of suspect that dwarves, these rather stout, heavily armored people, are probably not going to move around a whole lot, and they have a lot of artillery, so probably you're going to want to use those. But then you have something like the Dwarf Slayers, where it's like, oh god, like these things don't have any armor at all, but they move fast. Like, I thought dwarves were supposed to be the opposite. The idea of, so the vampire counts, which is, has no archery whatsoever, and certainly seems to be a bit more about sort of maneuvering. There's nothing about vampires that necessarily implies that kind of activity. You learn that by playing the game, but if you're just starting a game like that, and then of course there's the Vampire Coast, which does have artillery, so then it's like, wait, I thought vampires couldn't shoot anything. Or the Tomb Kings, which is a whole other type of undead. So the challenge then becomes, if you're brand new, like me, not only are you trying to learn the units for your own faction, but what you're up against has no logic to it whatsoever, other than what exists inside of that fantasy setting. And of course, inside the fantasy setting, if you're not familiar with it, now I've actually played tabletop fantasy battles. I played Lizardmen, which are very satisfying to play in Warhammer 2 as well. I mean, obviously dinosaurs are inherently appealing, but yeah, like that is definitely a game which is if you're familiar with Total War, I feel is really, really fun. And I'm certainly not going to suggest it's not a good game, but it's one where I think it can be very challenging to get into if you're not wired a particular way. Which is a shame, because I would love to play. I know like Johnny Big Time really likes dwarves, so I'd love to play a game that gives him a good dwarf faction to play with. But we tried a couple of multiplayer rounds, and it was very one-sided. That's more my fault, but anyways, it took me a long time to get into the Total War games, but I'm actually really glad I did, because I do like them now. It's actually kind of weird, because there's a streamer, unfortunately, I don't even want to say we have a falling out. Like, they're kind of a jerk, to be honest. But it took me a while to realize it. But they'd actually started off as a they'd started off as a Total War streamer, and then they got more into Paradox stuff and became known for sort of Paradox stuff. Whereas I still do Paradox stuff, but I've very slowly now been getting into Total War, so it's kind of interesting to see that inversion. But anyways, the game in front of us is Darkest Dungeon, and took me half an hour to get into the Weald. But so this one, I was going to go for the longer run on I was going to go into the longer dungeon, but it was collecting medicines, and I do have a...
Corruption has soaked the soil, sapping all good life from these groves. Let us burn out this evil.
I do have the antiquarian with me, so it's a chance for me to pick up some cash. I also have the bank, so should be good for some money. There's still some meat on these bones. Okay, now these apparently don't have any... like way of sort of targeting me. So I'm gonna... These things have a good stun resist, but that's more so to get the... It's more so to get the extra lantern out of it. I don't have any healing to do right now, so... You know what? We can make it even less accurate. Of course he lands it. Sorry, I think I was going to say this before, but I don't know if I finished the thought. But we are back to the normal schedule, so this is going to mean some more Darkest Dungeon, as well as Stellaris on... oh, I forgot to see if I could level up their gear. Stellaris on Monday, back to Brace Yourself games on Wednesdays, and then Darkest Dungeons on Fridays until we complete it. And I have on my whiteboard 3 games listed. Darkest Dungeon is one of them. And after I complete Darkest Dungeon, I'm going to have 2 games that I've sort of had a long-term plan of doing on stream. I probably should have just gone for the nervous stab. And then sort of my obligations are done. I sort of have a clean slate. Actually, that's not entirely true. There is one other thing that I'd like to try and get through. But
destroy them all.
It's not on my list because I had other plans for it, which didn't quite turn out, but life's not over, so. So we need to complete 100% of the room battles. Yes, so there's a room battle with the Curio, so we do need to head up there, and we do know there's an obstacle, so. There might be a logic to sort of moving through here and then going back so that we can get rid of the shovel, but I'd prefer to just clear out the region as I can. Okay, we'll come back to the... Uh-oh. So I guess we won't throw a lantern into that. Anyways, I've been delighted. Sorry, I did want to say for Selenarius, the one thing I always try and do, one of the very first lessons that because this is just back to the idea of there being more people in chat. One of the most important things I learned early on, I tried to sort of greet everyone who visited, and I would actually see
worldly corruption.
I would see the people go away as soon as I said hi, and I actually realized that not just is there the idea of lurking on Twitch, which I'm definitely very fond of,
Another abomination
but that
cleansed from our lands.
it was actually part of the experience to remain anonymous, that people did not want to be like part of the broadcast, for lack of a better term. So I've always kind of tried to take that I've always wanted to try and keep that into account. It's why I try to keep a level head as far as the number thing goes. Because the other lesson for me is that when it comes to... So I think we want to try and get the fungal battery first, but I think the tenacious crone is probably gonna cause some trouble for me as well. We'll maybe get the antiquarian to deal with that. The other reality is my YouTube channel. Like, obviously YouTube just used to be an archive of stuff that I... it would used to just be an archive of stuff because Twitch turned off, like, lifetime archives. Probably just gonna have to move the Vestal on her own.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
But you never know what people are going to get into, which... Ow. Although my judgment should help with that. So with that in mind, like, the signals that you'll get about what's working and what's not are not always going to be the ones that you're necessarily looking for. And I guess the other thing too, I promise this will be the last that I talk about it unless someone has like a question. I do also just notice in general, I've been in more than a few channels which I sort of want to support, and the broadcaster is quite literally only complaining about their viewership, and it's like, well, like, what reason are you I'm here, right? I have not contributed to this problem you're complaining about, but I feel like I'm being punished for being here because you're only going on about it. And it's obviously such an easy trap to fall into, but it's one that can really it can be a real drag because, you know, nobody's served by it. It's unpleasant to watch. It's it doesn't, you know, obviously the person's unhappy or they wouldn't be complaining about it.
Blurred vision. The end approaches.
This is going to get a little tricky to deal with. Oh, but I still have my thrown dagger.
Monstrous size has no intrinsic merit, unless inordinate exsanguination be considered a virtue.
Okay, so here I'm going to, I'm still going to go through the rest of the area just because I want to try and claim as many, you know, as many valuables as I can. Cult of the Holy Toaster climbs out of a comically oversized toaster. How you doing? So, how big is a comically oversized toaster? Are we talking human-sized? Are we talking battle mech-sized? Are we talking, like, bigger than a bread box? I also feel like one of my other regular games should be, should get a mod for the Cult of the Holy Toaster. Or perhaps a rival organization, the Order of the Holy Toaster. Sorry, I don't know how much more mileage I'm going to get out of this. Sometimes a tree is just a tree. You know, for someone who's been away from this for a while, I've actually been okay at not walking into obvious traps. Of course, now that I've said that, I'm going to fall into a bunch of obvious traps. Sacre bleu. Well, it can't be that bad because we only have one person who hasn't got the curse. So I am going to take the Gatekeeper just because their contribution to stress. Size of a normal house.
disadvantage. Give them no quarter.
So previously I was talking about how our efforts to try and take out the... So one of the reasons why I always focus... Even though a sycophant is not... Well, I mean, the sycophant, because of the stress damage, is probably worthwhile. But the thirst, so they're going to heal up most of that damage, is one of the reasons why I prioritize them if they're damaged. So I was talking a little bit before about how some of my boss runs were being disrupted by the presence of these groups. Have you seen my blog? Sorry, I know I use that a lot, but it's still new to some people. It's come with a comically oversized butter knife. Comically oversized child with a comically oversized fork for you to yell, no, don't do that. So these folks sort of interrupting runs, so it's not so much to get the stun, but to boost my torch. So under normal circumstances, I would have been going to try and take out like to finish the Crimson Court material. The problem is that my ideal team for that had a flagellant, and both my flagellants are at level 0, so I basically just have to learn to deal with the bloodsuckers until I can get my flagellants up to level 6. I'm kind of hoping to just find flagellants in the, unlike the hiring. I gotta remember to use the antiquarian so that I can get the goodies. And we've got disease. Or not. But on the other hand, we did also finally beat the cannon, so could be I just needed to get better. Oh, interesting. I think we'll run with it. So I have to do the fight before we can find out what's behind it.
May we find victory.
This will do some damage, but we're not worried about damage. We're more worried about any stress.
Pummeling.
So I hit the one in the back just because another pair of daggers should handle the problem.
The flesh is knit.
So again, none of this is a worry unless they start getting really low on the health, because this is the last battle that we're going to do. What we really just need to do is get the goodies from the curio behind them. Let's try a dazzling light. Oh, I forgot. I can't do the back row on that. Okay, well.
As the light gains purchase,
good question, Midori Musha. Let me. It can't be the thieving one because they just pocket it. I believe it's compulsive. I think. Yeah, I'm like 99% sure it's compulsive. Certainly, out of these three, it's the only one that would make sense. Yeah, the positive ones don't seem to make a lot of sense for that trait. I'm honestly not that bothered by it, although obviously it can be inconvenient. Like it's a good trait for the antiquarian to have. Obviously, that would be intensely frustrating for someone in the party who's not the antiquarian to have it, just because it would give me fewer goodies. Okay, be judged.
A trifling victory, but a victory nonetheless.
Sax contents are yours. Cool. So, nice little Nice little pile of cash.
The agents of pestilence will yet be driven from our woods.
I should actually take some time in the hamlet. You know, obviously I spent a lot of time chatting at the start, but I should maybe take some time in the hamlet to double check what upgrades I want to build, because we're at the point now where we're... wasn't the Crimson Court that added them? Was it Color of Madness? I think it was Color of Madness that added the extensions to the hamlet. Anyways, wherever they were added, there's something I should keep on top of. Okay, so we've got a bunch of level 4s now. Clumsy's replaced Off Guard, Evasive, Scattering, Beast Hater, and Tough. What does the amulet do?
Perhaps things are not as bad as they seem.
Okay. The question was the amulet, so... Sorry, I just want to take a quick peek at what happened over the turn. There's a couple amulets that I got. There was the... so there's the Blighting Satchel, which was the reward from the quest. So this is the Grave Robber plus 25% Blight skill chance, plus 1 speed, but at the cost of some dodge. And then there was the amulet that I picked up, which is a pretty common one. This is the Blightstone. So this is plus 15% Blight skill chance, minus 1 speed. So it's kind of like the Blighting Satchel, but muted effects. Were districts from the Crimson Court? For whatever reason, I don't remember. I don't remember them in there. Then again, I guess I hadn't enabled the Crimson Court until I started this run like eons ago. Because it sort of said that it was quite difficult, and like I don't know, I really like XCOM, and I've like loved XCOM since Firaxis sort of like reimagined it, right? And yet, when I take a look at the difficulty settings, they're like recommended for experienced XCOM players, and I'm like, am I really that experienced? You know, and like obviously I've played every single one of the new ones. I played Phoenix Point, you know, or like strategy games. I generally play quite a few strategy games. It's like, you know, put this on if you're familiar with strategy games. I'm like, well, I'm familiar with strategy games, but am I familiar with this strategy game? So generally, if a game sort of warns you saying, you know, for experienced players, I tend to get a bit spooked about it and like hide away, but it is what it is, right? Okay, but I do want to go through the blueprints. So we've got the bank, the cartel. So if I have the bank, it definitely means that I started to splurge on the stuff which I wasn't as concerned about. So we have a puppet theater, which will help the idle stress relief. That's actually a good counter to GNR Slash's sort of their slow stress in like growth for not being used. Sanguine Vintners, which I was really hoping I would like. I was really hoping I'd go through the Crimson Court before I would need this, but that is an option. We already have House of the Yellow Hand, Altar of Light, Training Ring, Athenaeum, Performance Hall. So the Outsider's Bonfire is a bit limited, but it's also kind of cool. So 300 crests for that. So we're probably not getting that anytime soon. So I suppose the biggest... Oh, no random hunger checks? Oh, right, but I'm gonna have to go through the Endless Harvest for that. Okay, that's gonna take a while. So clearly the red hook is just for, as it says, a monument with no purpose except proclamation of one's dedication. So practically, I need 500 crests and 80 busts. So, and probably focusing on the busts makes the most sense at the start, because like that's achievable. The crests are going to take a very, very long time. On the other hand, I don't really need them all that much. I'll probably build the Outsider's Bonfire first, Abomination, Hellion, and Lepers are things that I use fairly regularly. It's nice to have idle stress relief, but generally I've been okay sticking people in like the sanitarium and the tavern and such. So Red Hooker Riot, I'll build it. I just won't build it right away. Red Hook. Oh my god, everybody wants me to throw away my hard-won gains. Oh man, the Stagecoach has been really stingy with the quality of followers. I mean, it makes sense. I've got a reasonably full roster. It's just I'm trying to get the people that I want. Okay, so I forgot that I had disease to deal with. On the other hand, it is kind of neat to just get some free stress relief on them. So you know what? I'm just going to be cheap. We'll just get a whole bunch of money. I should probably work on the Formless Flesh at some point. But let's go back to the Cove. We're probably not going to have a team of 5s come out of this thing, but we'll at least have a couple more 5s that we can send on to one of the boss fights. And it's another short one, so basically more of the same. I will bring 6 blood again. I hope I don't need to use it, but... yeah, we'll try 6 torches this time. Ah, crap. I wasn't paying attention. Nothing says I make wise fiscal decisions like driving your estate into crippling debt to build a giant tentacle statue. As a sacrificial pyre is damaged, the fanatic's zealous rages increase. This is definitely not
You are not alone in this place. The fanatic is on the prowl, and he smells your sickness.
This is definitely not a team that is prepared for the fanatic, but we'll do our best. I'm gonna starve him out a bit on the blood. Well, we're off to a good start. Yeah, last time I had to deal with the fanatic, it did not go well for us.
Continue the onslaught.
That's fine. I mean, the only way I'm going to learn how that fight works is by doing... I mean, like, again, I always have the option for a wiki, but then, like, I'm letting somebody else play the game for me then, right? I enjoy the process of being clobbered. Well, okay, I don't enjoy being clobbered, actually. I hate losing characters. I feel the pain of it. But part of the enjoyment is overcoming those obstacles and, like, learning to get better through the process of playing as opposed to letting somebody else do that. Like,
give them no quarter.
Now, obviously, not everybody likes that. I mean, if everybody played games that way, there'd be no role for me on Twitch. Like, obviously, some people just want to watch the game being played, but...
the way is lit. The path is clear. We require only the strength to follow it.
You know, being able to say, all right, I'm putting my heroes on the line so that I can learn how to take on the fanatic is, you know... that's a wonderful little... like, it definitely makes you feel really, really good when you finally take him down, so... ah, these guys are such a pain. I mean, the Pelagic Oracle is not my favorite either. I'm trying to think of the... I kind of need to think about the largest amount of damage that I can do. Good.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
Call it reading the wiki you call consuming the wisdom of ancient heroes who came before you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't want to be... I obviously have very strong opinions on that for myself. But frankly, it's not my business to tell people how to enjoy their games. You know, it's like... I think the important thing for me is that, like, wikis have also enabled the creation and the enjoyment of certain types of games. Like, a good example I'll take is the Paradox stuff. So in one sense, the wikis are generated by Paradox, and so, like, they're doing some of the work. There's a couple of arguments you can make, like, one way or the other on Paradox wikis. So in one sense, your best way of learning the game is going to be from the Paradox wikis. Like, you know, just being able to, at any given point, look up something that you need to understand in that game is incredibly helpful. That is really not some, like... So they're potentially going to be able to heal. Okay, but they're not, so... like, being able to look up the specific thing you're looking for inside of the game is very, very powerful, and I think it's the only way a group of people will be able to make sense of those games. You know, other people will maybe prefer asking friends, or they'll like watching streams or whatever. Now, the counter-argument to that is to say, it's like, well, you know, this is sort of enabling Paradox to skimp on making a manual. And then you can sort of say, it's like, well, you know, manuals are kind of old-fashioned. Like, they're the sort of thing maybe you'd expect on tabletop games. And, you know, because the whole business model is to have this, like, active development, that the game continues to get better, supported through these paid DLCs, that, you know, a printed manual is not going to make a lot of sense. And I'm very sympathetic to that argument. But the point being that there's a whole set of gaming which is now enabled by the fact that you can have these sort of community-supported documents that will help you understand how the game works, and will generally be, you know, like, it's people who will be kind of speaking your own language to you, because obviously, like, I think the developers understand their game very well, but they may not necessarily understand what the experience of a new person coming into it will be. So.
Brought low and driven into the mud.
But all of that said, like, my tendency really is to try and learn the game, like, through the internal tools, and I normally just try and do that because I like to see how the game presents the information to me.
The flames of the smoldering pile.
Oh God! Oh God! He's got a big blade. By the way, like, power up audio is great, but I have always just, ooh, the sounds on this are something else.
A time to perform beyond one's limits.
So the problem with the grave robber being on the pyre is they're not one of my better damage dealers. Somebody said earlier, for you, watching games, playing games to feel a completely different emotion. Yeah. So I don't know if that's necessarily true for my audience now, but for a while, the impression that I'd gotten was there were quite a few people who watched my stuff. Oh Jesus. I'm really not sure how we're gonna do enough damage to this thing. But I'd noticed there was a fairly large number of people who used to game, but didn't necessarily do so anymore.
The very precipice of oblivion.
Oh, that's tough. You're joking. There's not even a... Okay. They made it. But yeah, no, like, I got, like, one thing that I'd sort of learned was that people really, really got something about, really got something, oh, he's quite vulnerable to stun, interesting. I have a new use for the Vestal once the healing's done. But yeah, like, the purpose that the streams were filling was essentially kind of scratching that gaming itch that the actual experience of gaming wasn't really doing anymore, which I thought was interesting. There's something quite tempting. Yeah, let's put a flash powder debuff on him. Ooh. This is so unfortunate for the grave robber. You know, come to think of it, stunning a 3-action enemy probably doesn't make that much sense.
The horror. Death waits for the slightest lapse in concentration.
So the good news is we have 2 heals available to us. Ow. Eventually I'm gonna have to start party healing, but
Never hidden.
Jesus, dude.
Gnawing uncertainty. The birthplace of dread. A hand's breadth from becoming unwound.
This could be the end of them. The screaming is genuinely uncomfortable to listen to.
A singular strike. And now the true test. Hold fast or expire.
Okay, I can't do fortifying vapors. I'm getting pretty lucky in terms of the... Oh, Jesus. So Divine Comfort obviously is the only thing that's going to help me keep my party alive.
Up. If only to bleed again.
Please don't stun. Ah. Oh no, they got my healer!
silence even the boldest gaze.
Not again! I think I'm going to do a dedicated heal on the Crusader. Actually, I can't because the Vestal's not going to be in position.
Injury and despondence set the stage for heroism.
Oh, God. If Olaf dies, it's all over. There's no way we can do enough damage on this.
Teetering on the brink, facing the abyss.
No! We just need a few good hits. Alright, I'm sorry, Antiquarian, but you're just not a priority here. Well, I guess you have to be. Oh, cool. Actually, this thing's almost done, so maybe we should kill the pyre just to... Oof.
Their cursed champion falls. As life ebbs, terrible vistas of emptiness reveal themselves.
Hold the line, friends. We're so close.
A powerful blow.
Glorious. I desperately needed that crit on the Crusader.
The whimpering dog flees to his kennel. Success so clearly in view.
I
Or is it merely a trick of the light?
So probably focusing on that pyre more at the start would have made some sense, but yeah, that felt good. The cure, its origins and ingredients unknown, but the tincture will quell the curse. Immune to death by Crimson Curse. Wow. There's definitely some good ones here. So there's a question who I want to try and cure. Because it's currently giving me some buffs for people. So here's what we're going to do. Let's... clear out... first of all, I got to clear out some space for all the loot. I need the crests more than I need the portraits. What about the rest of the money? Yeah, we'll leave that be. Oh, we're continuing the dungeon, Midori. You've clearly not seen me play Darkest Dungeon. I will push forward to the task's end no matter what. I have got a very, very bad habit in this game of pushing my team well past anything that would resemble like taste or sense.
If only treasure could staunch the flow of otherworldly corruption.
Oh, come on!
A shard of alien malignity.
We're doing this.
Compassion is a rarity in the fevered pitch of battle. Precision and power. To the pit. A momentary abatement.
What's probably going to happen is we're going to have the dominoes fall once people cross over on their stress, and that can potentially cause heart attacks, which will kill the party. So my measure on this is actually not health, but stress.
Find it in no short supply.
So I'm taking something of a risk by letting the Crusader take out the Crystalline Aberration, but...
Frustration and fury, more destructive than 100 cannons.
That's probably one of my favorite lines in the game. The question is, do I have the balls to do that again?
A devastating blow.
6 damage.
Executed with impunity.
God, that protection.
Self-preservation is paramount, at any cost.
pick to the face works from position 3, so I'd rather not spend time messing with the order. What?
Injury, palpable fear.
Oh yeah, the walls close in, shadows whisper of conspiracy is a good line.
Another abomination cleansed from our lands.
Antiquarian's going to be the one to break first. Let's see if we can avoid that fate. Jesus. Love a little punishment. Suits me fine. Like a fine coat.
A momentary abatement.
Maybe I should have gone for just destruction on the...
Mortality clarified in a single strike. Ringing ears, blurred vision. The end approaches.
Oh, Jesus! Gotta warm up my mouse clicking finger. Ah!
Such a terrible assault cannot be left unanswered. This is no place for the weak or foolhardy.
One damn turn! Oh well.
As the light gains purchase, spirits are lifted, and purpose is made clear.
We had to rename Olaf. Now, unfortunately, I don't have other means of healing now, so we are going to have to abandon the quest.
Where there is no peril in the task, there can be no glory in its accomplishment.
I would have if I had healing. I wanted to try and push it to a fight where I could heal out, heal through the heart attacks. But I don't know. I am sad we lost Olaf, but we do have other Crusaders. And we did... I mean, so it's not the first time we've killed the thing from the stars, but
know the tragic extent
it is the
of my
first time we've killed the
failings.
fanatic. And we got a ton of stuff from that, so... I don't like any of these options. We're not building the Red Hook. The testament to my ability is getting through that hallway. Wow, we're only at 70 crests, huh?
In time, you will know the tragic extent of my failings.
Yeah, so best I can say at this point is I owe you one Crusader. So Mathan goes to the gambling hall. The others are... Now, actually, here's a question. The cure for the Crimson Curse. So it looks like that's something we actually need to put in our... that looks like something we have to put in our inventory. Good night, people. Enough insomnia for you. Gonna try and sleep. Okay, have a great sleep. Thank you very much for hanging out. It's definitely nice to have you in there. Sorry, I'm catching up on a few things. Okay, I think I got most of. I think most of it was just responses to the nonsense that was the types of bosses I needed to face. But that's life, right? Fitzroy. Try and go for the cheap stuff. So what kind of disease am I looking with here? Bulimic, tapeworm, and disease I mean, I'd like to cure them, but so I think level 3 can't go. Yeah. So okay, I am gonna try leveling up this group here. So it's possible that I'll wind up replacing every single one here with a level 3, but I probably should stop waiting for it. So we're going to go for some lower level adventures for the time being, which means I can put Mr. Bulimic in treatment. I think GNR/ has earned a trip to the church. This is Crimson Court Central. I think I'm gonna only have one flagellant though, right? Yeah. Huh. Okay, well, I do have an opening in the roster. I mean, it is going to be somebody that I wind up kicking out. Let's maybe just take a look at my overall classes. So... Too many Arbalist equivalents. Do I really only have one Crusader? Guess so. I like both Highwaymen and Houndmasters. I think I'll go for the... I think the Highwayman might be the call here. Thing is, it's a position 3 though, so Highwayman's okay for position 3, but it's not... I usually tend to use a Houndmaster in that role. Or I can go for the higher level unit in the form of the Jester. Nah, let's bring in a Highwayman, even if it's temporary Highwayman.
Elusive, evasive. Persistent.
Wait!
Righteous traits for a rogue.
I thought I was supposed to have shield breakers. Did I forget to replace those? Because I remember... Yeah, Chatwood died in the Countess fight. That's nuts. Okay, well, I definitely need to... so I guess Olaf is... I guess we're not replacing the Crusade. What is this lineup? Man, I'm not going to be too sad to see some of these roles die out, I think. Okay, neither here nor there. Let's just take a quick second here and make sure that I've got something resembling decent skills. Or traits. Some of these can't upgrade anyway, and there is a question as to whether or not I want to invest that much in the Highwayman, but... I can live with these. Okay, so I do need to bring Crimson Curse, activate 3 infected corpses for crests, or explore 90% of rooms for... Well, I mean, this is long, but I think I'm going to go for detoxify the corpses. Well, 2 musketeers and a arbalist. So Sharp is definitely a holdover. But I don't know. We'll make it work. It's definitely a very weird lineup, and it's gotten weird over a long time.
Excise the fungal tumors, and the land may yet live.
So we'll go kind of this pattern. So down this side first, and then off to the side. Luggage clearly shouldn't have been
A
abandoned.
fortune waiting to be spent.
Okay. These guys are always a pain. Ah! I was looking forward to using the Iron Swan. So this is where the jump forward would have been helpful. I think so. I haven't tried it though.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
Ooh. I should have paid attention to the skills. Ouch.
As the fiend falls,
I really don't want them to get another chance to
blossoms.
drop that on me.
The ground quakes.
I probably should have paid a little bit closer attention to what I was actually bringing into the fight, but we'll make this work. I've already been fed.
Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
Yeah, so thinking about the cure, like, I'm trying to think of who the best candidate for removing the curse might be. Obviously, if I just used it at the time, then I probably would have applied it to Olaf, and I would have lost him immediately after, so... I think one of the level 6s makes sense, so maybe I bring that with me on our way to the Countess. But, again, I don't really have any... I don't have any strong feelings on it quite yet. Oh god, I was gonna switch around the abilities. Alright, well... Hope I don't need to heal anyone. So this is because the Iron Swan's gonna be available. But not enough. Well, the bleed
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own.
Okay, lucky there. So my hope is that the Flagellant gets targeted for a bit, just because that'll give me the opportunity to reclaim some health. But my normal use for his abilities is to heal another member of the party. Although of course I've got weird reconstruction for that with the occultist. I kind of don't want him to die yet. Ah!
Precision and power. Continue the onslaught.
So that's just good, so I could use Exsanguinate on it.
Them all. These nightmarish creatures can be felled. They can be beaten.
Do I even have someone who stuns? I mean, it has a resale value, but I think I'll keep the medicinal herbs because those do actually become potentially useful. Alright, well. It does, yeah, so Iron Swan numerically does the same damage as Wicked Hack. It has, so one of the reasons why it feels like it hits more is I actually think that is the realization of the slightly higher chance of crit. So, yes. Well, I think the animation for it in the original game is also really good. But yeah, it is a very, very stylish animation that, like, just feels really good. But I think the other thing is that, like, the responses is that I suspect it's because of the tendency, like, the slight edge for that ability to create more... like really high value hits also tends to make Iron Swan. So I think it's the design of the game in the sense of like the feeling you get when you use that ability. It just feels very powerful in terms of what you see on the screen. But I do also think our response to numbers and sort of rare events tends to make Iron Swan feel very powerful. I honestly haven't sat down and like looked at the numbers in terms of what a crit's going to give you and what that 1% difference is going to do, but like on paper these are very, very similar skills, but obviously the reaction, I mean, I react the exact same way that you do to
Nature
it.
herself, a victim to the spreading corruption, malformed with misintent.
I need all the grub I can find. Sure, why not? Third disease never hurt anybody.
Carelessness will find no clemency in this place. The match is struck.
I was a little
a blazing star
overzealous
is born.
on the torches, but that's life. So probably a weird reconstruction for the occultist at the start of the next turn, or the next fight. Ah, this isn't so bad. So Adrenaline Rush should be able to handle that. God, I keep forgetting to redo my skills. That was a terrible round for us. Haha, we already have rabies.
Be gone, fiend.
Beautiful.
Another abomination.
So this thing's just gonna bleed out. No reason to waste a unit on it. Or waste an action on it.
The slow death. Unforeseen. Unforgiving.
I think we will push on. So what I'll maybe do is work down my torches in this lower area here, and then we'll camp. Ah, secret door. Yeah, we'll maybe camp up in this room.
Wealth beyond measure. Awarded to the brave and the foolhardy alike.
It's gonna be a little tough here. Oh yeah. I just remembered as I was about to go in about my skills, but that's fine. I mean, the only thing is that it's the heal for my flagellant that I want to mess with. Maybe something for the occultist, but like it's not the end of the world if I don't remember to do it. I feel like an idiot every time I forget.
Destroyed.
Rapturous. Adversity has dissolved my mortal psyche and opened my skull to the light. So now we can focus down the bloodletter. I am told inordinate size has no intrinsic merit unless exsanguination be considered a virtue. Oh, I should have read this.
A victory. Perhaps the turning point.
Let's stitch the jade. So we are potentially going into a somewhat dangerous encounter by letting the torch run down here, but again, the aim here is just to take advantage of the firewood. Whether or not this is necessary is a whole other question, but... Oh, wow. I always thought you just started off with everything unlocked. Alright. So, turns out I wouldn't have had an option to mess around with those skills anyway. Yes, Church of the Bright Edge. Okay, so the good news here is that they don't have anything to mark me. The bad news is that they can inflict a lot of stress and torch damage. I probably should have done a more precise attack.
Eradicated.
Actually, the bleed will... Yep. So they do always have the chance of doing damage to us, but generally it's less than what we normally need to worry about. So we'll hex them, we'll do the usual usual batch of sort of buffs and debuffs, and hope for the best.
Slowly, gently. This is how a life is taken.
You clown!
Be wary.
I really wish
Triumphant pride precipitates a dizzying fall.
I could, like, use the salve and then pick up the onyx. Like, it's almost like the onyx just vanishes from existence the second we, it is worth more than the gold, but the chance of us finding it... I think I'm just going to stick with this. Okay. So there's probably not much waiting for me in this room here, but I do want to see what the curio brings us, so... Okay, I pretty much can't camp now. So the original plan was to camp, but the loss of the food to the eating kind of put an end to that.
And now, the darkness holds dominion. Black as death.
Good lord. That tapeworm is no joke.
Packs full of steel and war. But nary a thought given to the plow.
I mean, I did bring 16 food. That I didn't pack light on.
The way is lit. The path is clear. We require only the strength to follow it.
You'll just eat the mushroom people or something. Okay, so I'll only have one more after all is said and done. Let's try the same strategy as last time. I think we got a bit lucky, but... So I do need to be on the watch for heart attacks for my flagellant. Okay, not bad. Actually, very good. That's going to take out both of them. Okay, lead time. This front one's kind of on its way out already. We'll still hit it with the axe, but...
As victories mount, so too will resistance.
This game hates me. We'll dodge the battle. Well, obviously you can't dodge this one, but we'll dodge the battle and face the trap. Damn it.
Decimated.
Oh, I thought I hit the corpse for a second. I was about to have a bad moment. I may want to heal the Hellion, but
Annihilated.
we'll see what the next turn
Success
brings.
so clearly in view. Or is it merely a trick of the light?
Yeah, so disease is... well, blight is actually a problem, but disease at this point we already know that we're going to the doctor. Okay.
A handsome reward for a task well performed.
So it's just curios. Looks like it's a lot of Crimson Court stuff. Alright, not great, but... and nothing here. So, look, I'm not gonna lie. This was not a great run. I'm actually gonna just take a quick second here and see what these curios bring. Worst that can happen is we get another hunger event. And if that happens, you know, we take the hit and then we just leave. Okay.
Good fortune and hard work.
There might have been something on the other side of the fight. The fight might have given us something to work with, but I don't... it wasn't worth... I don't think it was worth taking. We were at a little bit less health. Obviously, a heart attack on the flagellant would have been very, very sad. Okay, so they're level 3. We can't use them in a... in, like, one of the lower level parties.
Pallid blight filters its way through the rotting boughs. Let us press on.
Wholesome plant life has been spotted in the surrounding wood, a rarity in these parts. Plus 33% resolve XP in the wield on the next quest, and 15 damage in the wield on the next quest. So, something of an incentive there. Cruel actually doesn't have that much in terms of... stress, but excuse me. Clearly we need to deal with these diseases. Excuse me. Give him a trip to the bar. Nothing too special on the coach. We are up to 121 crests. We can convert some of the deeds. Trying to remember what we were shooting for again. 300. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I forgot the special event. Wield. basically champion level quests. Now, I mean, normally I take my level 5s to go and take out enemies, but that's not like a strict rule. So, we can gather 3 medicines, or we can explore 90% of rooms on a long journey. Also, Caregivers Convention will give me a town event. So let's... I am taking something of a risk doing this. What's the deal with Lyra Zyder? Why didn't I... Oh, Ansi. Okay. This is something of a risk I'm taking doing this. There's multiple risks that I'm doing with this lineup, actually. Man, do I really want to bring a bunch of 4s along? The strays. Okay. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this, but... As you can see, I'm not really thinking a lot about how I'm applying this. I'm just usually hitting the buttons. So, yeah, I mean... It's, not the smartest thing I've ever done. So we don't have the tapeworm, but I don't know. And we've got Crimson Curse people. Let's see how it goes. Beast and corrupted human alike inhabit these failing groves.
Our land is remote and unneighbored. Every lost resource must be recovered.
So we'll clear out the obvious steps first. I would like to minimize the combat that I encounter. Actually, you know what? There is going to be one wiki thing that I want to do, because I meant to run a test on this, but I never did, so... So I'm just going to take a quick look here at resolve level. So this is the Wikipedia. So this is the section. I'm going to the section on the fandom Wikipedia page. Gaining resolve experience. Heroes will gain experience when successfully completing an expedition. Retreating from an expedition will never grant any experience to the surviving heroes, regardless of the amount of enemies slain or objectives partly completed. Expeditions will reward higher amounts of resolve experience depending on their difficulty and length. Likewise, different resolve levels require increasing amounts of experience in order to pass on to the next level. There is a table here. So Apprentice difficulty, Shrieker Quest 1 XP, Short Expedition 2 XP, Medium 3, Long 4, Boss Expedition 4. Veteran difficulty is 2 XP for the Shrieker, 4 for Short, 6 for Long, and 8 for Boss. And finally, Champion difficulty will grant 4 XP for the Shrieker, 8 for the Short, 12 for the Medium, 16 for the Long, and Boss. So basically the deltas multiplied by 2 each time. Old Road gives 2 XP, Expedition Wolves at the Door, and all 4 quests in the Darkest Dungeon all reward 16 XP. For the Courtyard Expeditions, the first one gives 4 XP, the Baron gives 8, the Viscount gives 12, and the Countess gives 16. Others are the same as a general rule. Now, the funny thing about the Countess is that it says the level for that is Darkest, so I always bring level 6 people. For the Farmstead Expeditions, first one gives 2, the Miller gives 6, and for the Endless Harvest quest, it depends on the wave survived. The Leave Before Finishing the first wave gives none. Finishing the first meter on the top right gives 8, the second gives 12, the third gives 16, and the fourth and on all give 20. So I suppose if I want a way of leveling everyone up, I should try and learn to get a bit better at the farmstead. And then experience needed by mode, we are in Darkest, not Stygian. So to go to... wait, +2 per level? What? That doesn't make any sense. I guess it's talking about how much more... Nope. Oh, I think I get it. So you go from 0 to 2, it takes 2. To go from 2 to 8, it takes 6. 2 to 3, it takes 6 to go to 14. And then 14 to 24 for level 4 requires 10. Okay. I kind of need to... I mean, like, the information is useful, but I do kind of need to... I guess, like, in the end, I kind of need to think it through a little bit. So, for instance, if I do, like, a champion difficulty short quest with my... with, like, level 5 people, let's say, my expectation would be that it's going to take 2 of those. Whereas doing a medium champion level should take them to level 6 right away. Maybe I'll use that chart in future, because I can actually see... I mean, the thing is I think a lot of the weird gaps that make it so that I can't field a full party, I think those are going to be... I think those are going to be there no matter how much I try and organize everything.
Cruel machinations spring to life.
But, I don't know.
With a singular purpose.
I can maybe try, I can try being a little more careful with it. I did say I was going to avoid fights, but there is the possibility there's medicine here, so... Let's see how much trouble I'm in.
Spirits are lifted. And
quite a bit. Ooh, this is gonna sting.
Impressive. A decisive pummeling.
Probably should have done it on the giant now that I think of it, because it doesn't have protection. So I'm a little lucky that they haven't been trying to... They haven't been trying to mark my people.
Give them no quarter.
Ouch. Ow!
Blurred vision. The end approaches.
Oh no. Okay, good.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
I was hoping to do something like Battlefield Medicine, but obviously the disruption of the formation. Okay. The game taketh away and the game giveth.
Such a terrible assault cannot be left unanswered.
This be one where the game taketh away. So if we can do damage, we take it. Dazzling Light's not enough. Oh no! Oh god, that's 2! Okay, so everybody heals the leper now.
Surgical precision.
That was our first encounter.
As victories mount, so too will resistance.
So we'll wait before a battle before we take the blood. Actually, it's just, yeah, it's craving, it's not wasting, so...
The match is struck. A blazing star is born.
Okay, that may have consequences later. I mean, this is already a risky move, but it does potentially move my people up quite high if we pull it off. Okay, so before we go in, I just want to see lower stun resist, blight, bleed, less max HP. I hate to do it, but I... Oh! God damn it! I really didn't need that. So we're gonna spend a bit of time healing up the leper now.
Masterfully executed.
What? But I warded against you. Oh, he's gonna bring the whole party down with his stress. I don't want to call it quite yet, but this is definitely looking like one where we may abandon the quest. My threshold for that is pretty high, but I can definitely see this. Spinning out of control really quick.
Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all.
So we get to focus on the bloodletter.
A death by inches.
It did occur to me I should also be fixing the bleed on everyone, but... So, I mean, the leper is taking his role as a tank. It's unfortunate, but... The good news is I can focus on healing the leper now, and we've more or less made up the rather unfortunate choice. Well, not even choice, the unfortunate error from last time. Okay, that's going to be some bleed to deal with. Yeah. So he's taken 6 around.
The bigger the beast, the greater the glory.
It's 15 damage and 9 damage, so not great.
But a victory nonetheless.
But I guess we'll just have to live. We'll live with it till the next fight, and then we kind of do the same healing that we did previously. I suppose the real question is going to be when I camp. Oh, this is good.
Finding the stuff is only the first test. Now it must be carried home.
So the sooner we find this stuff, the better.
The way is lit. The path is clear. We require only the strength to follow it.
Okay, that's actually not the worst hunger that I could have gotten, just because it does give a little bit of healing to a party that's been suffering from its bleed. Someone couldn't resist stashing treasures here.
Nature herself, a victim to the spreading corruption. Malformed, missing.
Not great. How do these guys feel about Blight? They actually are quite fine with it. So, mind you, that's never really stopped me before. So let's start with Blinding Gas, because we are a little bit more of a long-term group. Yee. I suppose better that it happens now. God damn, this guy's really... So I never feel good about doing like a generalized attack. Generally I like doing specific stuff, but that turned out because of the crits.
Exposed to a killing blow.
Ouch. So that's potentially going to be disrupting my heals. This probably is a little too tough for me to finish. We'll see how the next couple of rounds go. I am going to do a Divine Comfort. But if we can't make some progress on these guys, like, this is going to sting a lot. Well, maybe not. That's definitely going to hurt our ability to heal, though. Yeah, there's just too... I think there's just too much healing happening and not enough... Oh. We're retreating.
A wise general cuts losses and regroups.
So my biggest fear there was actually losing people to...
Where there is no peril in the task,
to heart attack, so...
there can be no glory in its accomplishment.
That was... I mean, let's face it, I went in with an underleveled group. I can't expect, you know, I can't expect outstanding results.
The plume
So.
and the pistol. A fitting end to my folly, and a curse upon us all.
Okay, so first thing we're going to do is cure some stress. They're also antsy. Nothing I really need. This gets me the crests. So if we do a little something like this, I'm not crazy about the stress on Fortier, but that's a function of the ANSI. Okay. So I used to just kind of leave the ANSI people to like do their thing, but I'm starting to see that this has consequences. So it's going to be expensive to remove ANSI, but we'd have a bit of cash. Okay. Sorry, before the guild, the blacksmith. You know what? We won't be rich for long at this rate, but gives me options. Okay. I also don't think I've equipped trinkets on these people, so I figure at level 3 and 4 maybe we can start being a little less tight-fisted. So usually what I like to do is sort by character class. Oh yeah, I seem to remember I give them 2 hats. Okay, definitely the melee skills. I feel like we can do better here, though. So I've got a decent dot. I feel, you know what? Probably the melee hat, if I have it. Looks like I don't. Do I really want to give an extra stress to somebody who's already halfway there? This isn't bad, though. It'd be nice if I could get a little bit more... it'd be nice if I could get a little bit more marking in the party. Yeah, I'll live with that. So, one thing, this is definitely a defect of the way that I play Darkest Dungeon. I stress a lot and I overthink trinkets quite a bit. Like, either completely ignore them or I stress out about them quite a bit. So I generally tend to just put it on someone and forget about it, which is not really the best. Oh man. Yeah, these don't really work for me. So one of the consequences of that is that there are things that could generally make me better that I don't equip, like at times where I really should, simply because my dodge is actually already pretty good. I could double down on it. Bleed resist isn't bad. Well, okay, so if I did bleed resist here, and then I boost my dodge, so the net effect... Yeah, we'll just do a heavy hitter in that case. But yeah, like in general, I sort of feel like there's quite a bit more that I can be doing to improve my overall party, particularly on like on a mission by mission basis. And unfortunately, just because the trinket system, like, it's not necessarily, I'm not trying to say that it's bad, but like definitely for me, it's one where I tend to find the amount of time I spend thinking about it keeps me from doing the thing which I like, which is to go in and just get, you know, beaten up by the game. So, anyways, we're going to do the... actually, I think I said I was going to do the ruins because it's long. So I'm also becoming slightly more inclined towards long missions, knowing that it gives me more resolve XP. So 2 blood for the antiquarian. Let's hope I remember how to properly order it. I think I'm going to bring 24 food this time. I'm not as worried about the tapeworm, but we do have 2 firewood, and there's the possibility of me using it. However, I am also going to bring 16 torches. So definitely, I'm probably overcompensating here. I'm probably over-preparing, but that would certainly be a first, and we're still over 100,000 gold. Actually, one thing for me to keep in mind is I think I get 5% on the gold I have in the hamlet. So I should, for the most part, kind of consider that as... like, a useful way for me to think about it, at least, would be that is my minimum... like, if I want to maintain what I have, that's, like, my minimum provisioning budget. Now, you could also say it's like, well, you know, you also have your costs of, like, you know, sending people to the inn or what have you. Like, it's not a perfect measure, but, I don't know, it's not a bad little proxy. Anyways, let's embark. The undead will not bleed, but they can be blighted. The other thing that I can do is, like, I don't put a lot of consideration in terms of the...
Pace out the halls of your lineage once familiar, now foreign.
So, good example here, right? Nobody here has any blight skills. Again, that's something that I tend not to put too much thought into. I'm actually going to wait for wasting this time. The antiquarian doesn't necessarily bring a ton to the enterprise, so... and we'll wander a little bit.
Hacks laden with loot are often low on
So hopefully this will be a
supplies.
lucrative run.
Well struck.
Sorry, that's not true. I've got festering vapors on my antiquarian. Now, this is not necessarily going to be a long run. Like, I want to kill the Bone Noble as quickly as possible, but they're actually in an inconvenient position. Ah, crap. I made the same mistake. I didn't check the skills that I have. Alright.
Eradicated.
That killed my chance for an Iron Swan, but it does give me a chance to take out the
Confidence
Noble, so...
surges as the enemy crumbles.
Let's,
Obliterated.
okay, I was waiting for that. It's not that the frenzy's necessarily bad, but I'm trying to conserve my vampire juice.
Sedated.
Okay.
Seize this momentum.
Definitely
Push on
not
to the
that.
task's end.
Finish him is good. I can see an uppercut. So, I think protect me marks my people, not enemies. Hand of Light might actually... Yeah, see, the thing is that... So, like, the tricky part here is because you have to choose 4 skills, the question is what do you remove? So, I try to avoid using Divine Comfort where I can. I generally prefer Divine Grace. There's a small argument for here for Hand of Light, because it gives me a 30% damage versus Unholy, which is probably going to be a little bit more likely in this environment. But I don't know, like the idea of just the offensive Vestal, like an offensive Vestal in the sense that I have 2 attacks kind of geared towards damage output doesn't quite sit right with me, especially given the fact that, you know, I have these healing boosts. So I think we're just going to carry on along those, along the lines that we already have here. I mean, there's always, I definitely think that there's a lot of value in experimenting, because there's definitely some ways that I've used people that, like, on reflection, aren't necessarily very efficient, and there's some abilities that are really, really helpful. One really common thing that I run into is there's a fairly commonly stated belief, which I don't actually think is true, that sort of says you always have to have a Vestal with your team. Now, admittedly, I've had a lot of Vestals on these runs, but I actually generally think that the game, first of all, is a little bit more interesting when you have some more diversity in the party.
Even the cold stone seems
but there are some
bent on
battles
preventing
actually
passage.
where it can be to your advantage to end them a bit earlier, and as a result, you like trading out the Vestal, so what does healing get you? Well, healing gets you the ability to sort of stay in the fight longer, to take the hits and you know, just kind of wear your enemy down over time. Well, for certain fights where maybe you just want to be, you know, you want it to be over very quickly, in that case, you know, you're going to want to...
In radiance, may we find victory.
like being able to, like having a quarter of your party dedicated to keeping you in the fight and not necessarily putting out any damage is sort of running counter to that intention, and so it can make sense. It can make a lot more sense to bring in a big damage dealer. I think this is actually a role that the Flagellant takes on quite well. So admittedly, with a lot of focus on bleed skills, those are things that tend to be most effective over time. But at the very least, they're tending to do quite offensive things. And the nice bit here is that even their heals, if you let them, will be something that that can do quite a bit of damage.
Trinkets and baubles, paid for in blood.
So I have a bit of a decision to make here. Like, the question is the citrine or the jade really enough to justify leaving some stuff behind? I can definitely see getting rid of the holy water, so let's give that to the Vestal. I never remember what the buffs for it is. Okay, it's a bunch of resistances. So the jade here, but I don't think getting rid of the skeleton key is right. I don't think I'm quite ready to get rid of firewood yet. Well, you know what, it's hard to think that I'll use firewood twice, so... But that citrine's not necessarily going to be in my pack by the end of the run. This is the drawback of being prepared. You actually have to start making decisions on what you keep. This is a pretty gentle dungeon so far. These might get a little hairy, but...
As the light gains purchase, spirits are lifted,
okay.
and purpose is made clear.
I'm not quite ready to give up on camping, but definitely glad I got rid of that second...
If only treasure could staunch the flow of otherworldly corruption.
Definitely glad I got rid of that second firewood. This is where we can use one of those keys. Partly the reason to use the key is just to get it out of my inventory.
A handsome reward for a task well performed.
So the question would be, do I want to keep a skeleton key or do I want to keep the jade? And I actually think in this case we'll drop the jade because the combined citrine is now worth more than the jade. Would have been nice if we could have found that a little bit later after we either lose the skeleton key or one of our torches, but we don't get to pick when those things happen. Okay. I'm going to judge... Oh, sorry, it was supposed to be a stun. Alright. Bad luck for me. So I'm kind of hoping the bounty hunter finishes off the...
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms. Destroy.
Glorious. So I think I finish him on the thirst. Oh, well, it won't matter. Better to take something off the board, I think. I'd like to heal, but removing things that can do damage, particularly stress damage to the the bounty hunter is a little bit better. They resisted the blight clearly because of the antiquarian's efforts. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
So much stuff! Okay, I definitely want the invitation. Oh, well, this is an easy one, actually. Just burn the torch, and we're ready to go. There's some wisdom in bringing bandages, but let's face it, I always forget to use them. And 75 gold isn't the end of the world. We can build it up to 2,500, but not quite ready to go full greed yet. I do like the extra range on this one. Not that it mattered. God, I keep forgetting I'm hitting the wrong button for the stun. So I'll probably do like a group heal. Alright, that's a real shame, because we don't have a lot of good protection penetration. Our best right now is Blight, but that Blight works very slow. Again, I'm not really all that worried about the overall health of the party, but...
Destroy them all. The ground.
Yeah, quite an 8 damage crit because of that 70% protection. So that's unlucky because obviously I get a big damage bonus on this, but it does open things up for finishing off the marksman.
The light, the promise of safety. The slow death, unforeseen, unforgiving.
So eventually I'll do that group heal I keep threatening. Actually, we'll get one of those in right now. It'll probably give him an attack, which is not great, but... No, maybe not.
Slowly, gently.
Nice.
This is how a life is taken.
Okay. Ruby's worth more than 2 citrine. Oh, that was one of the ones you didn't need the key on. Anyways, it's not the end of the world. That's a pretty easy heal. I think probably a group heal from the Vestal at the start, maybe? So overall, we're doing fairly decent progress towards our 90% goal, and I'm not really feeling the pressure to use the firewood except to free up the pack space, which is kind of nice. I don't think we can feast anymore, but a campfire can still be useful even if you don't feast. It is also kind of nice that we're slowly getting these invitations, because if it does require more than one trip... I mean, if it requires more than one trip on the Countess, I'm probably going to be short on some level 6s, but... Okay, this is going to be bad for the Bounty Hunter, but the Bounty Hunter also... Well, they sort of get a bonus on stun. Okay, so what we're going to do here is Dazzling Light on the Frothing Madman, and that's because of Finish Him, which is a 50% on stun and can attack position 3. Collect bounties only good for the first 2 rows. So let's hope for a stun. Okay. So the next hope is that they don't take their turn before the Bounty Hunter. Glory. Nice. So you should be able to chop through these units pretty quickly. They'll probably do some bleed on us, but...
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own.
No. Okay. So collect bounty is a pretty obvious choice here.
Annihilated.
Not crazy about the craving. I think we'll be a little well, we've got 3, but I'll wait a little while on that, just because I think if they get too frenzied, the consequence is that stress goes up, and I'm trying to avoid that stress gain. A lot of good the healing did for us.
Diminished.
So with luck, the Antiquarian will be able to... Yep. Oh, hang on. It's bleed resist. It's not bleed cure. Okay, pretty straightforward.
Be wary. Triumphant pride precipitates a dizzying fall.
There's a question what I would have done. So if I... Like, the Onyx still... If I had the old Onyx... it still wouldn't have paid for the ruby. I don't think I'm switching anything out for this. You know, there's 2 there's 2 food, there's the skeleton key, there's a couple things that I'd be willing to give up, but it's not worth stressing out too much about. Map might be helpful. Okay, I am getting low on shovels. Oh no, apparently I'm not. 3. For some reason I thought I had fewer. So we can actually afford to barrel through both of these if I want, but I think what I'll do is I'll head up to this, go through here, then out and around, and we effectively get to pick among the last 3 rooms. And the biggest argument for the firewood now is actually preservation of torch. Okay, so now the firewood becomes a little bit of a liability simply because I'm getting low on food. Alright, position 3 attack for the bounty hunter here.
A decisive pummeling.
We'll be able to do the same trick with the Vestal next turn. Or not. So I'll go for the sort of higher damage against the Bloodletter first. And then we'll hope for the stun next turn.
The bigger the beast, the greater
Well,
the glory.
well, I mean, we can still do a finish him on the, I suppose. So we'll do a heal up here. This also helps me with my torch, which is kind of nice.
The match is struck. A blazing star is born.
Nuts. So he kind of danced around that for no reason.
Horrors, brought low and driven into the mud.
I do actually have a use for busts. God. Okay, well, skip the key. Yeah, I think that's going to be how I sort it. I can never remember what to do with these altars. Well, you can afford the stress. It's actually the bounty hunters doing better on stress than when they started. I think it's probably because a bunch of the crits. So if I'm lucky, we'll see we'll have another scouting event. That can maybe give it... Of course, just after I get rid of the skeleton key. Okay, bad for stress, but the usual routine here. So finish him, Iron Swan, never guaranteed, but it's kind of our best chance. Okay, so stress threat's gone, blight on the bone bulwark. I'm not that worried about the graveyard slash. I can get rid of the stealth, but I actually...
Grievous injury.
I don't fear the bone veteran as much as I do the bone bulwark. I don't know if it's because the bone bulwark can do the same damage as the companion or what, but... I think in this case I'm going to try a dazzling light. I don't mind doing heals on party members, but obviously finish him is a pretty powerful ability.
A powerful blow.
So in this case, we may be forced to do some healing, just simply because we don't have anything else to... Well, actually, no, sorry. Flash Powder is actually useful here. So assuming we don't kill it this turn, Vestal's got her work cut out for her. Alright, that was very straightforward.
This expedition at least promises success.
Okay, so we're kind of signing up for 2 room battles here, plus whatever we find in the hallway. Whereas I could just go straight to some treasure. I think, honestly, we're in a pretty good place right now, so I think we can afford a slightly more dangerous path. And again, it does allow us to explore more rooms, so it just means that we get more options when it comes time to pick up the loot. The other thing is, if I can avoid using the campfire, so much the better, because that means I don't have to... that means I don't have the risk of being ambushed. That's why I put the blight on, because it's never guaranteed. And again, the standard skeletons, they can do damage, but they're not like priority enemies by any stretch of the imagination. For any reason, I tend to dislike the marksmen and arbalists and such. So this is a better chance of crit. And as always, we tend to... I mean, I almost never used to use the de-stealthing abilities, but they've really kind of paid for themselves the last couple of rounds. We kind of have tempo, so we can afford a heal. I'm kind of counting on people to deliver, but... Yeah. So the thing I was worried about was if the enemy got an attack.
A trifling victory, but a victory nonetheless.
I'm gonna... P Pals, thank you very much for the follow. Yeah, so my worry would have been if they got an attack beforehand. I'm a little reluctant to do this because we are running low on torches and we do have a bit of a walk ahead of us, but I'm going to burn the boats and take the busts. Again, busts and crests are the things that I'm looking for right now. I don't have enough confidence to get rid of the shovel. I do like money. So, yeah. And the reason I threw away the firewood rather than use it, I forgot to go to the secret door the last time that it showed up. Let's see how I feel about this when we're done the dungeon. I think doing something that will lower my torch, like backtracking, is not a good idea right now. So priority target here is the Sycophant. This is just because of their stress damage. I think all of them have the ability to inflict the Crimson Curse. But that's the one that's definitely gonna... Well, actually, we have less of a worry about the stress than we used to. But also just generally, Sycophants are kind of annoying. So these guys are protected against Blight, so let's just do some good old-fashioned stabbing. It's rather obliging of them to get into hitting range. We'll judge. Not used to using the Vestal as in an offensive sense, but it's nice when I can, because it means we're doing well. Okay, so that wasn't too stressful.
Success.
Oh man, but they're really really giving me some hard choices here. I am actually mildly tempted to ditch the torch here, because 12 Cress is... 12 Cress is not nothing. I mean, I can throw away the rubies and such, but... if it goes dark, it just means we get a little more stress and a little more loot that we can't carry in our pack. Again, I'm not too stressed about the fact that the Antiquarian's the one who's automatically opening everything, simply because they're the one I would have picked anyway. So I can't do a finish him on the Bone Noble. This is actually a combo of... This is a combo of enemies that's a little inconvenient for me. So we'll Judgment the... Again, I don't like the Bone Noble. I don't like its ability to inflict stress. Iron Swan should deal with that. If I can take down the Bone Spearman... So I do get bonuses against large, and there's a temptation to sort of mark the Bone Commander and take advantage of Collect Bounty. But let's take pieces off the board first. Obviously, something that's dead. Oh, but I can't Iron Swan now. That was the missing part of the puzzle. Let's go for a lucky Nervous Stab. Very lucky Nervous Stab. But yeah, so in addition to the size bonus, I see some value in... I'll take one turn to mark. I might try a stun, even though the stun resist is quite high, and I've got penalties to my stun ability. But honestly, like, I can do an incremental amount of damage on somebody with 16% protection, or I can go for sort of like a hero Dazzling Light, boost my torch at a time when I don't have torches, and you know, if we get the stun, then so much the better, right? We just get to pound on him for a little bit longer. So again, wasn't expecting an outcome, so I can't be disappointed about it. I think probably Blight makes sense here to get through the protection. I mean, 16 protection is not the hardest thing I've had to deal with, but... So if I can, maybe a group heal.
Does not dissuade the sharpened blade.
So again, the only thing I'm really worried about here is the lack of torch. The rest of it, I should feel pretty comfortable with. And again, like, if the torch goes to... I've gone through dungeons where I quite literally forgot to bring torches, so clearly we can survive. Okay, that didn't tell us too much. We have enough shovels. I should definitely... So, I tend to pick paths where there are curios. I should actually give them considerably less weight than I do.
Awarded to the brave and the foolhardy alike.
Just trying to think. No, I'll go with this. It probably makes a little more sense for me to take the gold because Like, so here's the thing. If I get another ruby, I can get equal to the gold. Rubies are rare. Whereas I probably have enough fights ahead of me that I can get 2,500 worth of gold. So really, this ruby becomes more valuable to me if I find 2 more of them. I don't actually think that's very likely.
Now, the
But
darkness holds dominion.
on the other hand, like, leaving
Black as death.
1250 on the table isn't necessarily all that, like, it's not that big of a deal either. So we're going to do the usual routine here. Also, I'm not 100% sure how it's triggered this way, but I really do like the change of key and the standard fight music here. But this is basically to set up the bounty hunter with the stun, and then we Iron Swan the noble. And let's do a festering vapors on you. So assuming the Bone Noble's taken care of, next turn's going to be Bounty Hunter on the Cultist Gladiator because it's human. A bit of dedicated healing on the Hellion, and it does kind of mean that the Bone Conscript gets a free turn. But I've never really felt that they're an enemy that I need to build a turn around. I may not even get the heal. Yeah. Fair enough. Oh god, crests.
Confidence is a slow and insidious killer.
I can't afford to throw away the food yet. I do have a blockage I need to deal with, so I'm sorry, rubies, but
Terrors may indeed stalk these shadows, but yonder, a glint of gold.
so obviously we're going to need to heal the Antiquarian at some point.
A fortune, waiting to be spent.
I don't think we'll have enough crests to build something, but we've definitely put a dent in our requirements. So, I mean, there's a question as to whether or not it's really worth it for me to continue adventuring here. I'll definitely go for the treasure room. Like I said, I need to kind of discount the value of... curios, but I do think I want to see what's behind that secret door, because if I can throw away the food for something cool, so much the better for me. It does mean that there's a stress cost for that, though. I mean, that's just life, right? But yeah, this is just pure greed at this point. These are a bit of a pain, so let's set them up for the Bounty Hunter. Again, we'll Iron Swan the Bone Marksman, but it's probably going to be the Festering Vapors that does them in. Obviously, I'm neglecting the heal, but being able to turn a surprise like... Oh, I keep forgetting. If the Bounty Hunter goes first, I don't have the Iron Swan. Okay. So, counter to what I normally do, I'm actually going to take out the Bone Conscript first, just because this is a way that we can make it so that only 2 things are doing damage to us as opposed to 3. So this isn't how I'd normally do the turn, but this is a bit of an exceptional circumstance. So these guys have got some reasonably high protection. It's going to require a little bit of work. But we can do things like... Well, I guess I can't set up a stun because I do need to get the heal on the Antiquarian. But, I mean, again, we've got enough gas in the tank to be able to turn this into a pretty straightforward fight. So, just slowly fight through the armor, do our best. That may not have been the smartest choice because, yeah, it's another Hellion. Oh no, actually that did work because they cleared out the corpse. I was just going to say the Hellion wouldn't have something to attack if there was a corpse on the ground. So they're taking 6 a turn, so basically we just need to tickle them and they'll be good. So quick group heal, just in case we have a fight. Actually, we will have a fight because I want to take the shortcut to the secret room.
Hellish creatures can be felled. They can be beaten.
I'm gonna get really greedy here. Actually, let's ditch the shovel for now, at least. Yeah. So I'm running the risk of hunger, but the thing about the hunger is the only thing I really have to fear from it is the stress. The physical damage to me is trivial, because I always get the option of closing the quest. But I do want to see what's in the secret room.
Darkness holds much worse than mere trickery and boogeymen.
And obviously the priority here is to go the shortest path, even if that means that we have a fight ahead of us. Minimizing the chance of a hunger event is a higher priority than the chance of running into someone nasty. That was unexpected. And we even got a torch out of it. Yeah, we got nothing to worry about here. Oh crap, sorry, that was supposed to be the stun. Oh well. That's like the third time tonight I made that mistake. One other thing I should consider are looking for the abilities that can give more crits. So for in this case, I'm going to do a Nervous Stab just because it's got the better crit chance out of all of my abilities. This is simply because while crits are obviously somewhat low probability events, they are things that reduce stress. And our team actually has more... Our team has less stress than they started with, possibly across the board. At the very least, this bounty hunter started with like a quarter of the way on the stress. And then obviously nobody's crying if if an antiquarian can't join the... I'm being mean to the antiquarian. It's actually a really useful class. But obviously nobody's crying if, we have to keep the antiquarian in reserve.
Darkness closes in, haunting the hearts of men.
But yeah, unbelievably, we didn't have to deal with hunger. So the question comes down to is how much is a crest worth to me? So it's definitely not worth 4 blood. This is a lot of gold. 3,000 for sapphire, so it would make more sense to give up a gold stack. So I guess the question would be, would I buy 6 crests for 2,500 gold? Honestly, yeah. So let's see what the haul was.
To us, and we will find whatever secrets they hold.
Now might be a good time to get up and take a stretch. We'll be here for a bit. Alright, so we got 11,250 from finishing the quest, and then what we collected, which brings us to 32,750. Total crests, including the quest rewards, were 78, 18 busts, and then we got another flagellant boost. I really actually should put Eternity's Collar on my low-level flagellants, because, like, who else is going to be wearing them, right? But Bourneville got a new level. I'm going to have to clear out the lethargy, but that's fine, because I'm probably not going to bring them on the next battle. Yeah, so that was a really good round across the board.
The plume and the pistol. A fitting end to my folly, and a curse upon us all.
I mean, we were in danger of going below 100,000 before. Certainly we're looking pretty good here. So Mathan had a night on the town, recovered 70 stress, and is no longer hopeless. Kaya LB had a night on the town and recovered 70 stress. Corbin prayed and recovered 86 stress and is no longer hopeless. Lyrazider has been inspired with holy worship and wishes to remain in prayer. Recovered 86 stress and is no longer fearful. GNR Slash underwent effective quirk treatment and removed ANSI, which was really expensive, but obviously that was... Okay, so we lost some blood, but we brought back 4. So generally we're in good shape there. Okay, let's just take a quick look at the stagecoach. Okay, shield breakers arrived. So let's take a look at the levels. So as much as I like highwaymen, I like the shield breaker a bit more, and we don't have any.
The task ahead is terrible, and weakness cannot be tolerated.
Now the other thing is we do need to find a replacement for Olaf. I do need another Crusader. Well, I would like another Crusader. So this might involve a slightly more painful cut. I may actually kick out Maynet, because as nice as it would be to have multiple flagellants, and again, I've got a really weird lineup. Like, I've got way too many Vestals. I've got like 3 Arbalist equivalents, because the Marksman's basically just a slightly different looking Arbalist. Let's just kick them out of the party. Okay, let's get a proper accounting. So 2 Lepers, Shield Breaker, 2 Hellions, 1 Crusader, 1 Abomination, 2 Flagellants, 1 Man-at-Arms, 2 Bounty Hunters. I mean, Bounty Hunters is pretty good. 1 Highwayman, 2 Occultists. Do I need 2 Occultists? It's not bad. 3 Vestals, which in reality doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I've invested so much in them, I don't want to get rid of them. Are they ANSI as well? Okay. Grave Robber. 2 Antiquarians? Really? Am I really going to bring another Antiquarian on the... It's probably better to let them die out rather than... Yeah, okay, so, I mean, it pains me to do it, but I think this is the most logical
Suffer not
removal.
the lame horse, nor the broken man.
I definitely wish I had a better... a bigger, sort of barracks or whatever all these people are held in. And because inevitably I'm going to forget. Speed boost is nice, but I think suffering's call. Or yeah, we'll skip the shard of glass for now. I'll need to rethink about that. Okay, it's a little early for... I mean, it's only by like 6 minutes or so, but I think I need to call it there because I did have a very late start tonight, and I wanted to get as close to a full stream as I could, but I also wanted to be a little careful in terms of how I spent my time. But we're in a good spot. Actually, sorry, there is one other thing I want to do, just to take a look at the status of my work. So I think we're going to do the Outsiders Bonfire. So if I wanted, I could build the Puppet Theater. But let's go for broke and build the Outsiders Bonfire, and then for busts, so we can build the Sanguine Vintners, and there's nothing else we would use the busts for. So 2 bottles of the Blood Brood each week. So not that we were going to do it, but that does sort of like gather the blood is a nice little way of farming some invitations and blood, but that's no longer a requirement. In fact, the main reason I would do it would be to, get some low level people moving up. Now, one drawback that I have here, this is actually the biggest problem I have with the way that Darkest Dungeon works, is there's really no good way for me to like use this party, right? So the only way that I'm going to get a 4th body would be to kick out one of the antiquarians, which in general I'd be fine. Oh, hang on, that's not an antiquarian. That's one of these 2 antiquarians, which, in general I'd be fine. But like the only reason I'm doing it is so that I can move them up. And I'm going to have the same problem eventually when the occultist moves up to level 3, but these guys are still down at level 1. I've never really found a good answer for how to handle that. The other thing I'm mildly disappointed in, and like this is just, I kind of knew this was going to happen no matter what. This is actually one of the first runs in a while where we haven't taken out an enemy. We've got the Formless Flesh, which is probably going to be what I go after next. And then at some point I need to do the Drowned Crew. Now, it's been a very long time since I battled one of the Cove bosses. So that's definitely going to be a bit of a surprise. But traditionally that's been a way that I sort of level up sort of level 5 heroes. If I want to go after the Formless Flesh, I remember that's one that sort of shifts... like it shifts its different status, and there's usually a weak point that you can hit. So it would be nice to have a little bit of diversity in terms of attack types. And then as just a pure matter of practicality, Erasmus and Lyrozyter are both Plague Doctors. Antiquarian is nice, but like they're not obviously like a massive damage dealer. So this team on its own is clearly not going to be taking out a boss. At the minimum, I would want the Grave Robber for the damage ability. I probably want to wait until the Hellion is sort of moved up. So, needless to say, we're probably going to be on hold for a little while on the attack or on boss fights, but for good reason. I think. I think it's pretty justifiable to try and get my numbers in order. And then again, if I feel like I really want to like bend over backwards and get one of these bosses taken care of, clearly I can bring along some of my level 6s. But the point here is I want to take out the Countess. I want to have a Flagellant to do so, and so the priority right now is giving some levels to this guy. In fact, one thing I might do is just take all 3 of them and put them in like a long dungeon somewhere. It's not great. I would prefer not to do it that way. But it strikes me as a reasonable way to try. Like, if nothing else, if I can just level them up to like a level 2 and then bring them on like a short level 3 run, at least then I can fill in the party numbers with the Shield Breaker or something. Whereas if I bring along, like, oh yeah, actually, sorry, let's rename. Olaf 2.0. But yeah, I mean, even if I've got somebody at like level 2 and I bring them on a veteran level quest, that's a little bit less, a little bit less stressful than like, bringing a level 0 onto a veteran quest. Anyways, I did promise I was going to shut up and call it for a night. So thank you everybody for hanging out with me, particularly at the Uncommon Hour. Just a reminder that we're done with our little side quest into the world of George Orwell. I hope you enjoyed it. Most of the videos are online for that now. The game Orwell itself is probably going to need a little while to upload because the original game decided to use a copyrighted song, and they're pretty aggressive in their enforcement of it, it turns out. So even though, like, I gladly would have gone without playing it, but it does look like they basically want to monetize the whole video because of that. So I want to see if I can download that video and mute it. YouTube used to give you the option for that, but it seems that they either removed it or it doesn't apply to this video. So I'm going to see if I can do a version where I mute the music, and that way I have control over the monetization and whether or not it does or what regions it gets played in. But yeah, other than that, the videos for those should be coming online on YouTube fairly soon. 1984, the book, is already on YouTube. And then for the live stuff, which you're probably here for, Monday we're back to Stellaris. Wednesday we're going to be back to a Brace Yourself game. I don't know if I'm going to do Industries of Titan or Phantom Brigade. I do know Phantom Brigade has gotten its update, so I might start with that. And then Fridays are kind of dedicated to Darkest Dungeon until we finish it. And as I said earlier on, I've got a list of 3 games on my whiteboard over here. Darkest Dungeon is one of them, so once that's done, I've got 2. That doesn't mean that's going to be the next Friday game, but sort of a private goal for myself for the stream. So I'm not going to rush the end of Darkest Dungeon. I'm really enjoying it, but I've got an incentive to make my move. All right. Also, I'm sorry for the sort of extended goodbye. I was hoping that I would be able to find a channel to host, but it's taking its sweet time to load, so... Looks like... Got a couple people online tonight. Okay. I do like W. Shand, who's hosting tonight, but I noticed that Night Valian is playing Grandia HD Remastered, and I always have a soft spot for being able to host someone who's at the bottom of my list of people based on views rather than at the top. So we're going to host Night Valian tonight. I know a few of you are familiar with him. Generally, I was going to say I used to play a lot of Game Pass and indies, but I noticed that he's been on a little bit of a JRPG kick. So I kind of feel like JRPGs they're kind of in the realm of Darkest Dungeon territory. So hopefully you have some fun. As for those of you who are just here for me, I'll see some of you on Monday, some of you on Wednesday, and the rest of you on Friday. Until then, have a good one.